I was delighted to say joining me throughout the show is commentator Sam Armstrong. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, we've got to start with immigration again, haven't we? Because it is the big topic. Interesting to have had Richard Tice in the studio talk about this. And one of the points I made to him was, you'd be absolutely gutted if Labour actually achieved, cutting immigration significantly enough that the British public would be happy with it, because that's kind of, that's the reform shtick. It's kind of also the shtick of, the Tories as well, that they would tackle immigration, although no one believes them, because of course they were in charge for 14 years when it absolutely ballooned, even more than it did under Tony Blair. But given that we've got, a week or so till we get the next figures for the whole of 2024 net migration, going back, June 2023, the year to June 2023, 906 net migration, as in it's more people coming to the country than leaving. So well over 1 million. I think it was 1.5 million came that year. In the year to June 2024, so basically a year ago, 728,000 more people came than left. It was 1.2 million people who arrived who were not from this country, most of them non-EU as well. Is there going to be anything that the British public is going to accept in terms of taking back control and a significant fall in net migration that doesn't involve those numbers coming way, way, way down, certainly below the Home Office prediction of some 525,000 net a year?
Let's be very clear. Even if we achieved what Reform say that they wish to do, which is net zero migration, we will still feel the cultural, economic, political consequences of migration that has happened to this country already, permeating through for years. Talking about reducing migration, and let's be clear, this is what Starmer is doing, talking about reducing the net rate from 700,000 a year to 500,000 a year won't make a cotton-picking difference to the standards of living in this country, to the rate of cultural change, to the strain on our public services, to the waiting lists that people face to get a house, to get NHS treatment or anything of the sort. It's not going to deal with extraordinary stories like we heard over the weekend that the First Lady of Sierra Leone manages to have a council house down the road from here in Southwark. These outrages are going to carry on. The British public have been sold a pup for 25 years. We didn't have mass migration in this country, despite people who claim we did, until 1997.
We were talking about it earlier. It was, on average, 20 to 30,000 max a year net migration to this country. Tiny numbers, absolutely tiny numbers, and then it ballooned under Tony Blair.
There's that old Yes Minister sketch, isn't there, about how the British state deals with a crisis. It says, deny that there is a crisis, deny we've got mass migration, then say, OK, maybe there is mass migration, but we shouldn't do anything about it.
It's a good thing.
But then they say, oh, maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do. And then you say, oh, maybe there was something we could do, but it's far too late now. This is Sir Humphrey, this is the British state, this is Liberal politicians all coming together. They've sold a pup to the British public, and whatever happens now, the damage to our country has already been done.
This is the key.
So you say to me, Julia, you say to me, oh, well, wouldn't it be bad if Labour did something? Well, firstly, they wouldn't, because...
No, I said no. What I said was to both you and Richard Tice, you're a Conservative, he's Reform, that actually, that would actually be harmful to you politically if Labour achieved something, although we'd all welcome it for the nation.
It's not just welcome. I mean, this is one of the greatest ills, the greatest threats to our country, to our culture, to our values, to our way of life that we face. We have been undergoing for years now an invasion with the full knowledge of our political class that has permanently made things worse. It is not a better place to live in this country for 25 years of mass migration. It isn't. It's worse.
Even by the way, for the migrants who'd already come here.
Who are the people that want this dealing with the most? Go ask people who came to this country legally 3-4 generations ago what they think on this issue. They'll all tell you it's an outrage. It's happening in their communities first. They're seeing it. This solving this is the most important issue we face as a country. If this got solved, I would happily pack up my bags tomorrow, say, right, do you know what?
Job
Politics is done for me, because things would begin to get better. But it's just not going to happen.
It is about, there's an economic issue, there is a, it affects everything. It affects our productivity, it affects wages, it affects housing, it affects healthcare, it affects our schools, it affects every single area of our life, but particularly culturally, and you mentioned earlier when people, walking down their local high street. I was driving down a major high street near me over the weekend, and I mean, genuinely every other shop front is in a foreign language. Yeah. Now, and it's and again, we were talking about this wonderful, there's a lovely French deli, or there's this. No, that's not what's happening. It's absolutely a load of nonsense. And this is the thing: when Nigel Farage talks for Reform UK about getting down to net zero immigration, so there are people who leave, we'd still have people coming in the country, being able to get the great and the good, the best from the brightest from other countries. No one's got a problem with that. People who can contribute, people who speak the language, people who share similar culture. And people say, oh, you're happy to have people from Australia and America. Yeah, I am. What, do I want people from Australia and America or Canada or France even, Italy, as opposed to people from Pakistan and Bangladesh? Yes, and it's got bugger all to do with anyone's colour of their skin. I think it is absolutely down to, are you already acclimatised and assimilated to values and norms and cultural expectations about, say, how women should be treated, how gay people should be treated, just your views on religion and integration. Of course, and anyone who pretends these things aren't different in different countries, frankly, is lying. They're lying to themselves and others. But this is the thing, I don't think anyone believes that Keir Starmer is going to do this. I don't think anyone believes that Keir Starmer believes it and believes it should be done. And the fundamental issue we've had is not just Labour, but the Tories for many years, claiming they're talking a good game with us, taking back control. Now, Brexit wasn't just about immigration, but it was about the ability of us to control what happens, so we can hold our politicians to account. National sovereignty, democratic accountability. And when Boris Johnson unleashed the Boris wave, like after lockdown, let's just literally invite in the whole world, there was an impact from that. Is there any point, though, in tackling the immigration, as you were saying, in terms of the damage already done, cutting those levels now to get it down to something manageable and something that we can vaguely begin to absorb, unless you're actually going to tackle the issue of people who are already here? OK, some may be British citizens, that may be difficult, but people who are not British citizens but may have been given indefinite leave to remain, others, but who have not integrated, often we see, particularly from certain countries in the subcontinent, where the women, they don't speak the language, they're not integrated at all, people living in parallel societies. Are we going to say at any point, we don't think that you should stay here and we think you should leave? Because I don't understand why people think that Rupert Lowe is saying anything outrageous when he says that, when he talks about illegal migrants, bearing in mind we've got 1.5 million of them, people who came here legally, have overstayed their visas, that we should be deported, they should be deported. I think we say to everyone, literally, you have a month to get out. Because you're not here, if you are not here legally, then otherwise things are going to get very difficult for you. Now, there'll be a massive backlash from the liberal media on that. But if I was in a country illegally, I would expect to be gone. But the vast majority of people living in this country who are here illegally have come here on legal visas, and that's the issue. We've got loads of people who've overstayed visas, or people who are on visas who are allowed legally to remain here, but are not contributing.
Julia, do you know what? Stuff them for a minute. Stuff them. I even perhaps, if I have to do a deal on this, it feels a bit like being Zelensky, dealing with the completely unreasonable people. I'm even happy to keep them. Can we just deport the child rapists, please?
Is that too much to ask?
Can we just kick out the people that organise the mass rape of girls in British towns and cities for no reason other than that they were white working class girls? Can we just deal with drug dealers, and whether or not their child happens to prefer British chicken nuggets to the ones they have in Albania? Can we just kick out pedophiles? Can we kick out the 50 convicted terrorists that have remained in our country despite the fact that they're eligible for deportation? Can we just deal with those people first? Is it too much to ask as a society that we're expected to welcome in, yes, millions of people every year, but we just want to send back somewhere those of them that decide to organise the institutional, industrial, mass rape of white working class girls. Is that too much for the public to ask of our political class? Because according to judges, according to politicians, according to civil servants, and far too many in the media, supposedly it is. It's disgrace. Let's stop talking about care workers and all of the rest of it.
Deal with the real issue.
We are in a country that can't kick out child rapists.
And again, and we're always told it's consumer rights legislation, which affects every other country as well, and yet they're able to do it and we're not. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on that, and I'm sure our audience are cheering away from you on that as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. We'll get some of your messages and your calls coming up very soon. I want to talk also, let's go on to another topic. And you mentioned, again, this is the interesting thing, linked to this, because extremists in our jails demand from Prison Officers Association for supermax security measures for the worst inmates after we had the horrific attack when we had one, boiling oil poured thrown at prison officers, 2 severely hospitalised. Then we saw at the weekend the allegation that Axel Rudakabana, the Southport killer, allegedly, I have to say that, threw boiling water from a kettle in his cell at a prison guard who has been hospitalised and will hopefully be able to return to work next week. Calls to separate radical Muslim prisoners to stop violence in jails. Anyway, I thought that's what they were supposed to be doing or had already done anyway. But I think most people find it extraordinary that people who've been convicted of the most heinous crimes, and remember, Axel Rudakabana smiled when he found out how many little girls he'd killed. He smiled when the police told them that. This is a dangerous man, as was Abedi, the brother of Salman Abedi, who carried out the Manchester Arena bombing, again, killing little girls. Bit of a theme there, isn't there? These same tactics, throwing hot water, hot oil on prison guards. There is now a fear from prison officers it's a matter of time before a prison guard is killed. Why on earth is a dangerous prisoner, an extremist radical, especially after the boiling oil incident? Why the boiling oil incident? Anyone was allowed in the kitchen, allowed to fashion a knife and things. Why on earth have they got access to a sodding kettle in their cell anyway?
There is no story at the moment that is enraging me as much as this one. Axel Rudakabana is not just a dangerous man. That creature is the personification of evil. He butchered girls for fun. Girls that wanted to go to do nothing more than dance to happy music. Hashim Abedi deliberately organised the mass execution of dozens of people. These people are as evil as they get. They are so evil that they have caused me to reconsider the opposition I used to have to the death penalty. As far as I'm concerned, the appropriate penalty for them would have been to be detained at a place of lawful imprisonment, to be taken to a place of execution, and to be hanged by their neck until they are dead. I accept the fact that I haven't made the argument well enough on that. I accept the fact that this country has abolished that a long time ago, and I accept the fact that we've agreed as a society that the worst we can do is lock away people for life, albeit in both of these cases they're not locked away for life. They are coming out
that's the bit,
because of so-called human rights
The deal
laws.
on getting rid of hanging was that the worst criminals went to prison for life.
And when they go to prison, they are not to be sent to a Butlins camp. They are not to be sent to a student halls of residence. They are to be taken to a place to be locked in a concrete box, to be delivered sufficient food to keep them alive and little more, and they are to be left to rot as far away from anybody
we don't need to
that they could hurt
them. They're
again.
not supposed to be coming out. But I completely agree with you. I just find it absolutely extraordinary. But especially even after the boiling oil incident, they're not going, oh, maybe it's a good idea. But also, we know the Islamist extremism is a huge, huge issue in behind bars. We know that huge numbers of prisoners from every walk of life are basically being forced to pretend or to convert, but a lot of them to pretend to convert, just to maintain safety in prison and forced to have halal food and things. This cannot be allowed to continue. I mean, I find it extraordinary. I hold no happiness and joy for Tommy Robinson. He's behind bars, banged to rights for what he did. He's not a political prisoner, but Tommy Robinson doesn't have the same facilities as Axel Rudakabana and Hashim Abedi had. I find that mind-blowing in terms of the privileges they have. I don't know why you'd get the privilege of a kettle. I don't want you to... No TV, no kettle, no working in the kitchen, none of that. You ain't earn it. I just find it extraordinary. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Give us a call on that one, 0344 499 1000. Again, we're going to find anyone who goes, oh, yeah, it's fine, it's a great idea. But again, they should be in supermax security, American style, shouldn't they? Just finally, I want to talk, because I know you're involved at the Free Speech Union, about police arresting people for thought crimes. We've had a huge number of these. There's a wonderful video over the weekend of a man being questioned for having a placard saying, like, no, there is no such thing as a trans child. Completely true. And police questioning him and saying, well, if someone finds what you said offensive, we'll have to talk to you. He goes, no, there's no law against not being offended. That doesn't exist. The guy was brilliant, and he read out the law. But then we had the extraordinary case, the Free Speech Union been working on this, the police having to apologise after arresting a former special constable, extraordinarily, I mean, for literally for thought crime, for a tweet he wrote, again, basically tackling someone being anti-Semitic, defending Jewish people, and they handcuffed him in his own home. They also said he had, quote, very Brexity things in his home. The body cam of the police, very Brexity things, including some Spectator magazine articles and some books written by Douglas Murray. What would he have made of things in your and my home, Sam?
They said the quiet bit out loud.
Yep.
This is what the thought police do. And that looked every little bit like the Stasi in East Germany.
Yeah, this was Julian Fawkes, wasn't it? Yeah.
This was them going into their house and saying, oh, this is wrong thought, this is wrong speak, you are holding the wrong views. And so we say, despite the fact that you volunteered as a police officer for 10 years, gave your own time to help keep our country safe, we're going to arrest you, we're going to drag you to a cell, and we're going to lock you up, despite the fact we don't lock up burglars or criminals that plague our streets.
Why did he need to be handcuffed as well?
It was a ridiculous situation. But here's the thing that galls me about this. The man in question is now suing the police, and fantastic, and people should support the Free Speech Union who's supporting him in doing so. But none of those officers, not one of them, has been disciplined, has been punished for the fact that they abused their badge to attempt to enforce their political
Didn't someone
worldview. Send
them there? They wouldn't have decided of their own free will to go there.
Well, but whom?
Yeah.
Who sent them there? A police inspector, a senior police officer? Isn't it worse if a senior police officer that should have known better sent individual low-level police officers to do the work on their behalf? It's staggering to me that the police seem to have completely lost sight of what it is that the public expect them to do, pay them to do, and back them completely in doing.
And again, could you arrest a few burglars first and a few terrorists before that? Just finally, I want to talk about that Supreme Court ruling on. Again, people say it was about trans. It wasn't about trans. It was about women. It was a Supreme Court ruling about women. It's about a month ago now. We've still got body after body, hospital after hospital, theatre, union, goodness knows what, saying, no, not going to obey that ruling. No, nothing has changed. The ruling was very, very clear. If you have a single-sex provision, whether it's toilet, a refuge, a prison, or whatever it is, if it's single-sex, and therefore it's for women only in particular, not an issue with men, by the way, not an issue there. If it's women only, then only women are allowed in, and they are biologically women, not what you think you are on a Wednesday afternoon. Britain's largest teaching union, the National Education Union, wrong about everything. Do not let these people near your children is my answer. They have voted in a weekend a ballot to campaign against that ruling on gender. They insist that, well, the article says trans women in schools, no, they mean trans-identifying male teachers in schools, must be allowed to use the women's toilets. That is in breach of the law. Any school that allows that can be sued, can they not? And there are lots of bodies saying we are simply not going to obey the law. Oh, interesting, by the way, Holyrood, the Scottish Parliament building, they're not going to be allowing trans-identifying men, who we call trans women, but they're men, to use the women's toilets. So they've obviously sought legal advice. Any organisation, anybody, any cafe, any school, any university, any workplace, anywhere at all, if they say, no, if you're a man but you claim you're a woman, whether you've got a gender recognition certificate or not, and you go into the women's toilets, they are allowing a breach of the law, and they will be sued to the end of nowhere, won't they?
These people are going into our schools and they are filling our children with these kind of ideas.
Yep.
Is it any wonder that so many more children now go through adolescence with mental health problems, confusion about who they are, their place in the world, young men in particular that keep getting told that they're evil or wrong or there's something about them? Because the people that populate the schools in this country that teach our children consistently, time and time again, turn out to be, on the instruction of their unions, mad, crazy, leftist people pushing propaganda on our kids. I'm worried about our children. I'm worried about what they think about the world they're going into to live in. And it's high time that we started really questioning who it is that we let teach our kids and what ideas they're pushing on them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Lots of calls coming and we'll get to them in just a moment.